sickening to think they make these Vince Vaughn movies in a test tube. You're watching Beyond the Trailer's review of Delivery Man.
You donated to a fertility clinic anonymously. Apparently there was a mix-up at the clinic.
What?
You are the biological father of 533 children.
What? It is impossible to be the father of 533 children.
It is impossible to be the father of 4 children.
How would a normal person handle a situation like this?
A normal person would not be in this situation.
A fast-talking con man who can't seem to do right by his family or girlfriend, but has a heart of gold. Quick, which Vince Vaughn movie am I describing? Oh wait, that's right, all of them. But while his predictability on screen might be a strike against him creatively, his box office predictability makes him an asset to the studios. Vaughn has several $100 million+ romantic comedies on his resume, including recent entries Couples Retreat, Four Christmases, and The Breakup. But it also looks like Vaughn needs a little romance in his life, as recent straight comedies like The Dilemma and The Watch couldn't make $50 million at the box office, much less $100. Even re-teaming with his Wedding Crashers co-star Owen Wilson for The Internship failed to interest audiences. So with little romance in Delivery Man, is Vaughn headed for another box office disaster? Maybe, maybe not. Delivery Man is a shot-for-shot remake of a popular French-language Canadian film, 2011's Starbuck. The crowd pleaser was actually remade first in Bollywood last year, the hit film Vicky Donor. A looser adaptation, the film was such a success critically and financially that a sequel is even in the works. Could Vince Vaughn be so lucky? He must be feeling pretty good, as he's already re-teaming with Starbuck and Delivery Man director Ken Scott for his next comedy, Business Trip. And on a side note, if you're wondering why Vince Vaughn's father in the movie has such a strong Polish accent, that's because this is the Hollywood debut of famed Polish actor Andrzej Blumenfeld. Plus, Disney has also thrown Chris Pratt into the mix in a supporting role, the star of one of their biggest movies in 2014, Guardians of the Galaxy. So can Vince Vaughn crawl out of his current box office slump? But just in case, he is developing a secondary career as a TV producer, with Sullivan and Son on TBS and a planned reboot for The Brady Bunch on CBS. So the first third of this movie really is just your typical Vince Vaughn film, and I was like, man, totally called it, can't believe I have to sit through another one of these things. I could recite it in my sleep. The trailer was right. But I'm here to tell you that the trailer is actually wrong. Because after that first third, and I urge you to get through it, Chris Pratt will help. Vince Vaughn goes to visit one child in particular that he fathers, and you'll know which kid it is, and the movie just totally wakes up and becomes something beautiful and unique, and something I feel everyone should see. Now, do you need to rush out to the theater and see it right now on the big screen? Not necessarily, although I feel it's a wonderful Thanksgiving movie because it is about family and parenting in I think, a fresh way for Hollywood at least. But you can see it on the small screen, but just make sure you don't forget about it because I do feel it's a great movie. So what's so great about it? Well, I think that so far, and Hollywood really, I think, reinforces the stereotype that parents are just seen as a resource for kids, and then as kids get older, kids become a resource for their elderly parents. And parents have their own group of friends, and kids have their own group of friends. There's kind of a personal divide between parents and kids. And I think movies and media in general kind of make it feel like that's the way it should be. It's not healthy for parents and kids to be friends. And I actually really disagree with that because I'm very good friends with my parents. And I think there are a lot of parents and kids who are friends with each other. Or if they're not, I think often, sadly, they wish that they could be, and they feel, they don't know how to kind of breach that divide. But that's a whole other conversation. Anyway, Delivery Man is about how really parents and kids should be friends. And that's the beautiful thing about that relationship, because when it works, they're the best friends that each could have. Because sometimes it involves being that friend who will be honest when no one else will and really tell you what you need to hear. And also sometimes that person, your parent or kid, will just be there for you, just in so much as to keep you company, which is so important. And the world is so tough and brutal that it's so great to be able to know you have one person to rely on, be it the parent or the child. And so that's what I found so refreshing about Delivery Man. And I think this is kind of a new trend in parenting that the baby boomers have spearheaded. But it's a change that it was so wonderful to see it reflected in a movie. Now, so there are lots of twists and turns in the story. I really enjoyed it. Vince Vaughn really does a nice job. But of course, as I said, this is his typical kind of role. He could do it in his sleep. Con man with a heart of gold who goes through a big personal epiphany. But that's not to say he doesn't do a good job. This is what he does. I think it would have benefited the movie a little bit maybe in terms of, bringing people into the theater to cast someone who, you know, this isn't a typical role for them, so it would become more of a fish out of water scenario, and it would have been refreshing just to see that actor tackle that kind of role, kind of like Hugh Grant in About a Boy. I think that's kind of an example of that casting. But don't let this being, you know, what Vince Vaughn usually does discourage you from going, because, you know, he's successful for a reason and he does a good job here. He's very good. And I think Chris Pratt injects a lot of comedy and some freshness there and uniqueness, because he's new to a lot of people, which I think helps the movie as well. And Chris Pratt's a funny guy. I like him a lot. I liked him when I was watching Parks and Recreation. And I think, but he's definitely a very good supporting character, but I think it'll be interesting to see him transition or try to transition into leading man with Guardians of the Galaxy next year. The only other thing I also would have changed about the movie is that I felt that with casting, I would have preferred if the kids looked, these kids that he'd fathered looked more like Vince Vaughn. Now, I realized they all had different mothers, but still, often I really couldn't, you know, I mean, I think the acting created the family connection, but it almost seemed like Vince Vaughn was just a stranger. It seemed more like he was just said, okay, I'll be the dad to these fatherless kids, rather than I actually am their father. So I think that, you know, obviously they didn't have to look exactly like Vince Vaughn, but I think that if it had been a little more familiarity, it would have just made the movie just all the more neater and worked just a little bit better. But as I said, this is a wonderful movie. It's a great movie for Thanksgiving. And I think it's a great movie for anybody who's maybe even thinking about being a parent or nervous about being a parent. Because I think it shows you a different route that maybe just you didn't know it was open, that, you know, maybe you felt wasn't okay. Because sometimes, as I said, that's depicted as selfish to try and, you know, be friends with your kids. And I just really don't agree with that. And I think this movie is really, really refreshing and I think really important. I think a friendship between a parent and a kid is really special and wonderful. And I know that I value it immensely, and it's my wish that everyone could enjoy that, even if it's with an adopted parent. So I think that's important. So great movie, go and see it at some point. And if you're looking for a holiday movie, Delivery Man is a surprisingly good pick. All right, so if you've seen the film, write your thoughts down below on it. Thank you for everyone who asked for this review, and you can check out some more episodes right now.